Hello there, my name is Nick Davis, ex-Games Workshop White Dwarfer, ex by about, 20 years now, and today we're going to be looking at Dogs of War. The reason we're looking at Dogs of War is very, very simple. I cannot locate my copy of White Dwarf 226, which is next in the line of White Dwarfs, so I've got one on order, and it's coming to me, which I hope we will see by the end of the week. So, before I get started though, if you like these walkthroughs and you want to see more, I'm going to do my best to basically do my best to make sure there are more for you to see. Let me know in the comments below. I think that's the best way to point it. And I always reply to the comments where I can, and basically give the best views of what I can remember from my unreliable memory from 20 plus years ago of my time at Games Workshop. But also, while you're here, be sure to check out my my growing range of Night Guardian adventure books. This is one of the books just here, the Night Guardian's Awakenings. This is available up on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and in a lot of local comic book stores now. It's a story of four cuddly toys who basically take on the boogeyman to protect their child's soul from being kidnapped. It's a dark fantasy adventure along the lines of Labyrinth, but if you ever read The Amulet, or your kids have read The Amulet, this is the perfect book for them. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And if you're out in another country watching this, type in your country extension for Amazon, look up The Night Guardians by Nick Davis, and you'll likely see it's available in your home country as well. So please pick up a copy of The Night Guardians. It'd be greatly appreciated. It helps me tell more stories, and also, in many ways, helps me do more of these type of videos as well. Right, so this is the Warhammer Armies Dogs of War. So what's special about this army book? When I started these walkthroughs, I said that basically I could only really do walkthroughs or basically talk about products I've actually worked on. Dogs of War was, I think, the one Warhammer Army book I worked on before moving over to White Dwarf. Actually, I think we did Warhammer Armies Dogs of War and we're finishing off Dogs of War as we bled into doing Warhammer 40k 3rd edition, which I may cover in a future video. Maybe it's a filler video if 226 doesn't get here in time, so we can walk through together, or maybe it's a companion video to 226, so you can see some of the behind the scenes stuff that we did to basically make these books happen, and some of the behind the curtain information that you may or may not know about these books. Now, earlier today is Friday, January 26th, 2024, I said I was going to be doing this walkthrough, and I asked you to basically send me some questions. And I've got my questions collated here. I hope I can basically talk about these right and get some of your questions answered, and it doesn't sound too garbled. And as we go through the book, I'll answer these questions the best I can. But I'm going to start with a very, very simple question. This is from Ed Maxwell. He asked me about the creative process. The creative process is very simple. I did the majority of the production work on this book, which includes layout, photography, and other bits and pieces like that. I was a production assistant for this book. Did a lot of photography, did a lot of layout. Nigel Sturman did the majority of the writing of this book, with a bit of work from Rick Priestley, and also from Thomas Parents. Actually, Thomas Parents' first books. So the production process what I'll talk about as we go through the book, so keep your ears open for that, Ed, okay? Now, Dogs of War originally was basically going to be Regiments of Renown. Answering a question from Ben of 90% Geek, he asked me what units would make the cut for this book. They were first going to be Regiment Renown books. In fact, on the back of the cover, it says Regiments Renown. I believe at one point this was actually only going to be a White Dwarf supplement, but they changed it into a full army book, and it was actually originally going to be Warhammer Armies, Regiments of Renown. Now, some of those were very long memories, like me, remember Bugman's Rangers, the Regiment of Light, and other bits and pieces like that were basically, these named regiments you could collect and put into your armies, and they're basically they're called Regiments of Renown. They fought for certain factions, and it had a mercenary feel to it. So some of the armies units you're seeing here are reflections of these old Regiments of Renown, like Bugman's Rangers and that sort of thing. And that's how they came into here. But how did the majority of the units make the cut? This book primarily focuses on Tilia and some units from Astilia. It basically it's a part of the old world that's beyond the Empire of the Mountain Range, I believe, and explores a very different region. Now, Tilia is basically Italy, so a lot of the Dogs of War stuff here is based off the old Italian city-states of the Renaissance. That's where you see basically formalities to the armour and weapons that you'd see back in that period. Also, a majority of the miniatures for Dogs of War were made by the Perry twins. Now, one little anecdote, if you ever talk to the Perry twins, it's having a conversation with one person, but there's two of them, and it gets really strange. Trust me, it really does. Anyway, let's open the page and see what's going on. Okay. This is basically Dogs of War. Basically, this is the opening minutia here. Dogs of War by Nigel Stillman, Rick Priestley, and Thomas Perrin. Thomas Perrin worked with Nigel Stillman. Nigel Stillman basically supplied the majority of the work for this book. I think it's one of the final Army books he did before he finally left Games Workshop on his sabbatical. I never know if he came back, because I don't think he came back when I was still there. And we start off basically some simple unit pictures, basically Dogs of War fighting against various battle units. The majority of them, these are actually orcs, beastmen, and that sort of thing. As you can see, it's got a very Renaissance Italian feel to it here, with the Bonzonzo's cannons and that sort of thing. And just to get the idea that basically these units can be used in any army. Although we did a not very good job in the opening pitch there, I don't think. A lot of fun artwork in here, and I'm trying to remember the arts by John Blatchford, Alex Boyd, Wayne England, Des Hanley, Toby Hines, Nicole Kennedy, Paul Smith, and John Ragg. I do if I basically said that wrongly, but my glasses, Nuala Kennedy. Because my glasses are not focusing properly in this light, because I have to use special diffuse light to make this work. So yeah, we turn off the first page, and it's typical content, so there's Dogs of War going on here. It's basically, this is the tale of Warhammer World of Warbands and Bandits now, so locking all over the world. It's basically talking about mercenaries. I still feel that basically they did miss a trick of this book by not actually giving you the chance to actually make your own mercenary units. But it's a very nice book in terms of the regiments they basically are going to be talking about, which they're going to be called the Dogs of War or the Regiments of Renown. So we started off with some photography pages here. Leopold's Leather Company, Long Drong Slayer Pirates, were basically an analogue for basically Bugman's Rangers, I believe. I'm not quite sure what thought was behind Pirate Slayers, but I think it was kind of a fun thing. You still got to remember, this is Warhammer before it got really grim and dark, so there was still an element of fun, a little bit of Monty Python-ness about the world, and basically Long Drong Slayers Pirates was just a fun unit to put together for that, which I believe answers another question from Ben 90% Geek there. So we got here Leopold's Little Company. Basically, these are the posh kids that basically are fighting in a war. We've got Arsenal for Dragon Lord. Arsenal is a football team in England, in case you're kind of wondering. I think it goes basically. I think he originally was going to be Prince Uther's Dragon Company, but the concept of basically high elves being mercenaries didn't quite work very properly. Which again answers yet another question from Ben 90% Geek there. With the Berman of Catraza. I love these. These are such a fantastic Renaissance take on basically Leonardo da Vinci's Birdman apparatus. They're just basically a fun unit to put in there. I think they're actually not very good on the battlefield at all, but they look fantastic, and aren't they really gorgeous miniatures? And if you're going to do a book about Tilia, about Italian Renaissance, you've got to include some like crazy Leonardo da Vinci stuff in there. So I hope that answers your question there, Stannis. So basically, you want to know anything about the Berman and Long Drong's Pirates? I think I've got two of those questions off for you there. Not much about the Paymasters though. Bazaga's Besiegers is basically heavy crossbow regiment. Then we go into General Enzo's Dogs of War Army. This is basically showing you how to put together a Dogs of War army. We basically knock these down into unit cards. A nice little Warhammer roster sheet there. There's Ludwig Belazona, and basically the standard mercenary general. It'd be very strange that basically we did a standard mercenary general, but we never really did a standard mercenary figures. Quick note about the green you see here. We drove our reproduction house crazy with this. We wanted the green that was very much a Mediterranean, almost yellowy green grass, and we couldn't get the right shades because basically remember these bases here. It's basically more or less goblin green, and everything had to match. So I hate to be the guy who had to mask this to make this work. Okay. So that's a nice little bit of mercenary army now. So we turn over the page here. We're going to talk about some more of the regiments of renown. Bonzino's Gallopagons. I love this miniature set, aren't they? Isn't it a beautiful little set? Look at that. That's really cool. I'm not sure if we may come to another section here, but I remember writing a little bit of colour copy info Bonzino's, talking about basically how the hose was basically, that's the trousers that they wear, was basically drawn in was painted as basically to reflect the livery of their lords. Nigel saw it and kind of lost his cool a little bit about it. I didn't realise I was stepping on his toes in that copy area. I just put it in it as basically more or less lower Lipsum copy. But I learned a lesson there not to basically do that again. Marksman's a Miriaglio, which is a kind of fun little regiment there. Also, you can see here, little barrel shots again. And then we have a big sweeping V of the Dogs of War. You may have actually seen that in my coverage for White Dwarf 225. That'd be a very expensive in points-wise army to actually field. The idea of the regiments right now, they were basically crack units you could put into your army to give it a bit of colour and also give you an elite unit that can really take on the enemy. So that's a very expensive point-wise army. I'm not even sure why the Gallopers, if you put the Gallopers so far forward, I guess just to show them off, because they really should be more further back than that. As you sit up against an undead army, there's actually one of our old Necromancer images there. And the old Skull Chuckers. Yeah, I'm not even sure if they actually what generation skeleton army that is for undead army that is for us. But again, you can see the colour in the greens and that sort of thing, and that's kind of fun. Oh, this is one of our vineyard pieces there. So let's turn over the page. The Alicanto Fellowship was the first unit that was produced for the Dogs of War book. Pike Regiment by the Patriots. Absolutely wonderful toy soldiers. I just love these. It's so historically beautiful, and actually you can use these as historical miniatures in historical war games, because they basically are no difference between fantasy and the period of the time that they were in. The only one I found disappointing in all the Dogs of War was the Borgs, Bearstrucks and the Bearmen of Oslo, mainly because they're just so generic, and even with if you look at the Alicante, even they are basically different in terms of where they look. You can make a nice different regiment. These were so regimental in the way they looked. A little bit sad about that. I think if you're going to do a Norse unit as a mercenary unit, they have to be more individual, but just to reflect what the Norse were like in the old world at that time. Mercenary General and Lucasella Belladonna. That's actually quite a nice little miniature. It's very reflective of the Renaissance guys at the time. And Golfag, Olga Mercenary Captain. Now, Ben Nadasenko actually asked, how did Golfag boys make the cut? Well, we needed new Olgas. And that's why. I'm sorry, it's a very blunt answer. But Ben did do a 2.5 hour interview with me once, and he knows that sometimes my answers are very simple. We just needed it, that's why we did it. One note about the Lucrana Belladonna is basically that's a beautiful horse miniature there. And it was really nice put together. Now we had to put together. Now basically we're going to roll in here. It's just a bunch of basically layout pages. The copy would have been supplied to me by Nigel Stillman, basically Rick Priestley as well. We would laid it and flowed it into pages. I think at the time we used Quark Express. Now basically I think that still exists, but Adobe InDesign is the big boy anymore. And we basically laid it down and flowed around the artwork, that kind of thing, to basically set number of pages. Beautiful artwork again here. I love these incidental pieces here, like fillers. Scroll work was nice. I still think we could have gone, thinking back now, we could have gone a bit lighter on the scroll so the text pops a bit more, but that's just basically a design thing. Especially when we got a lot of these coming compared to Legends of the Pay Chest, and basically how it basically acts as an army standard for mercenaries. Mercenary Captains was about pikes, which was kind of fun as well. And then we go for Mercies for Hire with an old John Blanche picture. A John Blanche picture. That's been around. That's actually in the old Warhammer book as well. So basically, it was adapted to put into Dogs of War as well. We have some more mercenary things. I really wish we had a blunderbuss unit. That would have been so much fun to see, right? And basically, we could talk about more colour here. It's really actually one of the points of the Dogs of War book was to expand the Warhammer Old World and give more areas for people to fight around. Because basically, we had the Empire, and we had Betonia. We had Kislev and the Chaos Wasty area, basically at the top of Kislev. There was obviously the High Elf realms, Lithuania in the middle, and where the Dark Elves are, which basically was Canada, and Lustria at the bottom there. But it's expanded more into Eastern Europe. So basically, we go over the mountains. We get to see more of the realms of mankind. A lot of the Tilia stuff was referenced in the old Warhammer fiction books. That's probably why we went further into this. And you basically give you more areas to fight for, and also we kind of blends into that Border Prince area, so it's made for good campaign stuff if you want to fight games. More colour copy here to talk about the Dogs of War. Actually, you see a lot of this in this book. Dogs War Army selections, what they should be, what they are. Special mercenary characters, regiments of renown. 65% of the army should be regiments of renown. I still feel they missed a trick. There's nothing in here that actually allows you to do your own special mercenary units. But you know, this is basically a showcase of regiment renown books, basically wrapped up as Dogs of War mercenaries. Characters: mercenary general, mercenary heroes, hireling wizards, and paymasters. They were very important to your characters of the book. So basically, they were pretty generic compared to the rest of the army that you had. And we go into Gorthag's mercenary ogres. As again, these existed mainly because we needed new ogre models. That's why we did this. Nice little colour about them, and basically their stats at the end there. And as we go through, the regiment renown books units all had their own double page section. Basigas, obviously, this is fun to do. Oh my god, how many serif fonts could be used in one page? So that was fun. That was a fun little thing to do. Basically, each regiment renown also has like a special rule that made them unique and useful on the battlefield. Long Drong Slayers Pirates. Yeah, Ben, 90% geek. These were pretty much bugmans, one for a better word. They were fun though. I mean, you know, let's get some pirate mercenaries. Let's get some pirate mercenaries in there, and let's make them dwarfs. Okay, Volander's Venators. I don't think we ever did miniatures for these guys, which was odd because, you know, the thought of a big Germanic style type cavalry unit that's just basically balls to the walls, heavy. It's kind of funny. What's that battle cry? Last one to die a sissy. Last one to die is a sissy. There we go. That's their battle cry there. So these are very much like the old German mercenary cavalry regiments at the time. Big, heavy shock units. I don't think I ever saw miniatures for these guys though, but they were fun things for you to convert if you could convert them. Pazizo's Lost Legion. This is the closest you're going to get to basically an Estalia regiment, and they were so lost we never made miniatures for them. Al-Mukhtar's Desert Dogs. Yeah, one of the other things about the Dogs of War book is it did expand to different races in the Warhammer Old World, so we could actually bring in some of the Arabic. I can't remember exactly what they called the Africa section of the Old World. But you could bring some of those units in there and have some character for units. It's a shame actually we didn't actually go over to Nippon and basically pull in some, you know, Nippon Japanese / Asian type units into the mix as well. I think basically like a unit of like rocket bearers or something like that, or so, you know, hiring on ninja assassins. But a pretty cool thing to add to your Warhammer army to bring that whole fantasy element out. So you ever remember back to Warhammer 2nd Edition? There was actually a Nippon army list there which you could do that. And I actually collected a lot of the samurai miniatures to make one of those up. Arsenal, the Dragon Lord. Yeah, it's fun. It's a Dragon Lord, and yeah, I'm not quite sure why we decided to put a high elf dragon mercenary into this. I think he kind of got lost, didn't he, or something like that. I think we did 2 dragons. Jez Grubbin did the Dragon Lord for the high elves, and this was done by Gary Morley. And I believe they basically decided they wanted to use both miniatures, but they couldn't have 2 Dragon Lords in the same range, so they basically put Arsenal into the Dogs of War. Leo's Leopard Company, the rich boys who went fighting. Bozino's Battery of Gallopher Guns. These are fun because they introduced the concept of light cannons, and that's something that basically the Warhammer world didn't have at that time. Nice units, beautiful miniatures, and basically they had fun. They could run and fire, which is a fantastic thing to do. Marksman and Miraglio, basically here we go again. We didn't have a lot of copy to fill the page up, so we basically went for the whole. Here's the posters. And basically give them Marksman again. Basically, it's a light armoured crossbow unit, not compared to the very heavy Bizargo's Besiegers crossbow unit. Borg Braystock and the Bearmen of Oslo. I think the colour copy in this is much more exciting than the miniatures ever were, but they were fun. They were a fun little unit if you want to bring some Norse into there. Respectful's Vendetta, a light skirmish unit. Yeah, I'm not sure whether they used to ever be in a Warhammer battlefield because they were very expensive skirmishers. And yeah. Well, they are what they are. But I think this would be a fun thing. These miniatures are fun things to add to, say, your wartime games. And the Alicantina Fellowship. I love these miniatures. These were fantastic. They have a great story because it's pretty much like, you know, they are the mercenary unit that basically work for cheese or goats, and that's a fantastic thing. It's actually a beautiful copy. This was the first one, the first regiment renounce they actually did. I think Alicante was basically was one of the original regiment renounce where the miniatures were very well Partha-like. But when it got updated to this nice little pike, this nice historically correct pike unit, beautiful miniature, beautiful box set. Rico's Republican Guard. Yeah, we didn't do it. I don't think we did miniatures for these guys here, but still another fun pike unit. The Birdmen of Katarazza. Now, Stannis asked me basically tell you everything I know about the Birdmen. I pretty much told you everything I knew about the Birdmen when I was looking at the colour page. They were a fun unit. Basically, we thought, hey, Warhammer Old World, I should call it because that's what it is in the games now, is basically can bring so many different things and different ideas in from basically throughout history. And these are basically just, let's take Leonardo da Vinci's Birdman schematics and just make them so they can fly, because why not? Warhammer's full of magic. I know they're kind of fun. A flying skirmish unit, so that's kind of cool. Still very expensive for what they are, but still a wonderful, colourful thing to add to a mercenary army. Then we go into special characters with Burgol the Besieger. I think that Burgol the Besieger appeared in the Dogs of War Battle Report in White Dwarf 225. I don't think that was an official miniature. I think that was a conversion. Leonardo DiMaggio, basically, again, genius for hire. That's a fun thing to have. Like you could use the old in the Warhammer Empire army. There was basically artillerymen, and there was a guy that basically was dressed in Renaissance robes with basically a sketchbook, a pad on his hip, and basically he's foot up in some cannonballs. That makes a perfect Leonardo DiMaggio miniature. Special words for him: Louisiana Belladonna, who basically will poison you if not basically cast magic at you. Midas the Mean, a mercenary paymaster. I don't think we ever saw miniatures for that, so that's another question answer for you there, Stannis. I'm sorry. If there was, I must have missed the release of them. There was a whole year between 2000 and 2001 I wasn't working for Games Workshop, so I missed a lot of releases at that time, so I didn't catch up on everything. All over the page here again. Lorenzo Lapino, Marco Colombo. You can see we're basically riffing off a lot of really bad Estilian names. I'm basically squashing it all together to make these names up. Warhammer Old World was full of this kind of crazy stuff. This guy was basically a Spartan Greek who basically just mashed up with a bit of a Roman centurion, all in the same place. And it was kind of a fun thing to do. Again, I don't think we ever did a miniature for that, but in fact, actually trying to think how you could even convert one with the toy soldiers we had at that time. I don't think we could. Marco Colombo, an explorer and probably exploiter of indigenous people. Then we got to the Art of Statecraft. Now we're going to have some fun colour stuff here written by Nigel. This is basically taking a lot of the bit of a tongue-in-cheek look and basically how to deal with certain parts of your army, how to become a ruler in Tilia, the Art of Statecraft, Art of Assassination, and that kind of thing. Talk about mercenaries in Tilia and why they were important, about the city-states and the invasions of strife and how mercenaries are important. You may notice that we're one of the few army books that has a ton of colour, because these were basically you're not supposed to take it too seriously. You're supposed to build your own myth and lore about how these regiments will end up in these regiments will now end up in your army and that sort of thing. And these are basically to exercise some colour around Tilia and the place they came from. To answer another question by Ben, 90% Geek, he actually asked me where were more war machines considered. The Goblobber would have been nice, right? Yeah, remember that guy? Remember that one, the Dwarven Goblobber? I think there probably was, but I think they didn't quite mix with the whole Tilia, Istilia vibe. They wanted to go with the Renaissance feel. But again, I think the Goblobber would have made a great thing to the attachment to the Weapons of Renan, and plus you got the special rules of throwing goblins at your foes, which is always kind of fun. Rise of the Merchant Prince, since Tom Moore talking about him here. Lands of Tilia, fantastic. I just love this stuff. There's just so much colour expanding this whole part of the Warhammer world, which you didn't really know too much about, and it only was ever hinted on in the various Warhammer fiction books. Tilian landscapes here, and the Challenge of Ravioli, talking about basically, another colour tale, talking about basically how a lord rose to power. Rise of the Tilian States, decaying ruins of the former Golden Age. Principalities, which basically is based on the principalities of Italy at that time, or the city-states as they were known as. Also great fodder for you to basically build campaigns around, because Atilia was right next door to the Border Princes. More colour stuff. These army books were full of wonderful lore and things you could pull from. A nice look back at the history of the Warhammer world. More stuff, bits and pieces going on here. Lots of artwork going on. So we basically, for NMAX, or the credit process, basically we was given a copy and we laid it out. I think it took us about 90 days to do an army book with all the revisions that we had to do for it. Tillian Chronicle, that was laid out by Mark Saunders, not me. And the map of Tillia, I'm going to bring this into the centre a bit more so you can see a bit more of it. I drew this map. This is me. I did all this. We had a sketch from Nigel, and I sat down and I drew this all in Oldest Freehand. If those people who do desktop publishing know what Oldest Freehand is. And yes, I drew this map of Tillia based on these descriptions. So I am the cartographer for Tillia. Yes, that's my claim to fame there. Believe that or not, that's me. There's another guy called Simon. I can't remember his second name. Basically, he saw the map. He was actually one of he did the old Warhammer world maps. He wasn't too impressed with my work, but it was put in here because basically I put a lot of work into it, and I get a nice different feel to the map here. So yeah, that's all on me. Age exploration, obviously more colour for Tillia. Norska forwards, Araba. That's basically what it is. I knew I'll find out eventually. Then this is going on there. That's a fun. Look at that. That's a great piece of Blanche artwork there, isn't that? That's cool. Tillian ships, which basically I think we had Man of War still going at that. Man of War just died off, so the Tillian ships were not touched upon. But they would be fun things to add to the Navy, right? Because basically had the comedic Bretonians, so basically were flouncy French. And they've explorations of trade routes. The map's done by Simon. And that's a nice, again, that's a beautiful, nice little map there. You may mention that a lot of Simon's maps are like this, very much more Tolkien-ish, I think, is the best way to describe them. And it gives you an idea of basically Tillian's relation. Now that's basically the Darklands here. Tillian's over here. The relation of Tillia to basically the Empire and the Bretonia and that kind of thing. Lustrian Adventures, basically, so you can tie in that kind of stuff. Again, this book is almost 90% colour copy in colour. I'm basically spanning Warhammer World and about probably 10% in rules, to be honest truth. Beautiful book though. Lots of artwork, more colour. And then we get to the final couple of pages of Warhammer Army books at that time. Wow, look at all those books that were done. Oh gosh. Wow, I didn't work on a single one of those. And we end up with basically the colour image illustration, which you saw a part of on the back of White Dwarf 225 and my 225 video. Let's pull this. Let's get this right over here. There we go. White Dwarf 225, and basically, as I mentioned before, we had to match that green, and we drove our reproduction house. Basically, the guys would get everything ready before it goes to the printers. Absolutely crazy to get that colour right. And then we have the back cover. So there we go. That is Dogs of War, Warhammer Armies, Dogs of War. And to answer a question from James Wake, would an army book like this be made today? I don't know if an army book like this be made today because I don't know what Games Workshop is doing in terms of Warhammer Armies. I would like to think yes. This is a very unique book. It's a lot of colour content. Not many rules, the honest truth is. It was literally made to highlight these special units that came out pretty much at the end of the life of this Warhammer at that time. And basically, just talk about how you can do these mercenary units and how special they were. The only trick I feel they missed is that we nearly should have done a miniature of this guy here. That would have been freaking fantastic, right? Absolutely crazy. And actually have a Gobbo mercenary unit as well, because that would be kind of interesting as well, right? Anyway, that is my behind the scenes walkthrough of the Warhammer Armies Dogs of War. Thank you for lasting this long into my video. It's not as long as my other ones. I'm hoping to receive White Dwarf 226 fairly shortly, which means I can sit down and do my White Dwarf 226 walkthrough. If that doesn't happen, we'll do a walkthrough of, I say, probably a Warhammer 40k 3rd edition. I can talk to bits and pieces on that and what you can see and what came through, what we did and what we didn't do in that book, and some of the photography for it. And maybe we might even turn back the dial and go all the way back to White Dwarf 220. Because face it, I was in the studio at that time, so this would be I have some insights into some of the process of that, so I can talk about at least some of the stuff that went into the back of it. And that, my friends, is it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As you know, if you're a regular commentator, I do my best to actually answer all your comments the best that I can. I certainly like them, and I appreciate the support and you guys sharing this video amongst your communities. This is purely Ben of 90% Geek's fault, to be honest truth. When he interviewed me last year, and it's a big long interview talking about the back of the past, he got me intrigued to look back at some older wide drawers, and I thought, why not? Let's take a look at some of my old work and talk about it, because I'm proud of what I did. Absolutely proud, and I've given you guys an insight in some of the processes and some of the production work, some of the creative processes. I might give you a better idea how Games Workshop works at the back end. I had a heck of a fun time working for the studio and working for White Dwarf. This was the only armor book I ever worked on before I worked on Warhammer 40k 3rd edition, and after I finished working on Warhammer 40k 3rd edition, I was out and in White Dwarf. So, that being said, I want to wish you all a fantastic day or evening or whenever you can be viewing this. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Please like and share. And I promise if you like this, I will do more behind the scenes looks at pieces that I've worked on. Maybe break down some more army books for you just because I can. And we will basically talk again soon. You all take care now. Bye, bye, bye.